I've got the bits of wood that I need now to finish the box. They now need to be sanded and then glued. I only need to sand the outside faces, of course, which is a bit simpler than some of the projects. But let's... I was debating whether to take them to a hard board or a soft board, but given how small they are, I might want to better cut them off. Anyway, that's all the pieces taped down. Let's get set up for some sanding.
I'm going to sand up through all the grades, starting with 180, then 240, 400, 800, and then a wet sand at 1200. I love these mesh sanding pads. They just allow dust extraction to work much more effectively.
Spritz of water. Okay, see if I can get you a bit of view.
The two top pieces were planed slightly thinner to account for the buttons not being particularly proud, and also the height of the rotary encoder stem. So I'm sanding these separately because they're the same height as each other, but not the rest of the boards.
Okay, so annoyingly I have miscalculated. There is not quite enough clearance for this bar to go in there. It's supposed to be at the head of this this panel here, just to tidy up and hide that gap, but it doesn't quite fit. It has to sit on top of the board there. It's probably a millimetre, half a millimetre. So what I think I'm going to try shaving the interior edge of this corner here, and then it will be a tight fit, but it should at least fit. Okay, so it's ugly, but I've removed the back corner from this piece so that it can sit half on the board there and make the front of that box. So, time for a break, I think. Another coffee.
I'm adding these hardwood triangles onto the inside of this joint. This not only gives me more surface to glue, but it helps me keep things nice and straight during the glue up.
What you want to do is glue this lid on, but I can't do that just yet, or at least I shouldn't do that just yet, because this top surface is not particularly level, so it won't be a nice neat joint. Who knows, it might not be a nice neat joint anyway, but this should now be tacked together well enough that I can do this. There we go. Interesting. Just seeing which of the corners I can see daylight through. That one's not perfect, but it's at the back at least. The front two are better. Okay, That's going to need a lot more work once it's sealed up, but that's all right. That is all right. So I guess we can glue the top on now. But to glue the top on, we need to position it. Positioning it means putting it back in the box. Well, that wasn't too bad. Then we need the top. Then we need that gap at the front is slightly larger than I would have liked, but you know, it is what it is now. It is glued. Okay, so now we are glued up on the tops here. They need trimming back to the edges. The first pass will be through the bandsaw, and then the second will be the router. But the first step, take the top off the box. There we go. So we've built this with these overhanging tops, and we're going to flush trim them back and hopefully get a nice smooth edge. So it's always very nervous using a tool like the router because you can destroy a lot of work very quickly. So we will start on the bandsaw. Okay, so now we have some decisions to make. So these surfaces are generally lovely and smooth. But what's not lovely and smooth are the edges of these top plates that I've just flush trimmed, or the end grain on these pieces that is decidedly rough. The end grain is principally at the corners, which brings us to the next question of what to do with these corners. At the minute, the corners of the box are nice and sharp. I probably want to round them. Do I round it on the router? Do I round it on the spindle sander? Because they're short runs, I'm thinking on the spindle sander, and then I will worry about how to deal with the faces. I suspect I'm going to end up sanding it some more before we finish it. But I'm pretty happy with it so far. Just need to not destroy it now. It is levelly and smooth. My ability to make a box without gaps is somewhat lacking. All of these pieces are not the best fit in the world. Some of them overhang fractionally, which I don't quite understand, because the flush trim router should have taken care of that. But yeah, it's all right. You know, it'll do for this project. Maybe some learning to take away for the next one. Okay, I was debating what to finish this with. Spray lacquer or Danish oil, but I'm going to go with Danish oil. I hope it's not going to be too dark, but we will see fairly quickly. I think at least one coat will be fine. Oh yeah, mustn't forget the bottom. Okay, and the slightly controversial bit, the spinny dial. Now I need this to have some friction, so if I make it too smooth, that will be a problem. But I think it needs a coat of something to protect it. Here we go. I didn't sand this to the same grade as the others, deliberately to leave it with a slightly rough surface. Whether the Danish oil is going to cover all of that texture or not, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. This one's slightly harder to do because it's rough, so it's catching the cloth. Hopefully this won't just mean you can see the texture either. I am not sure I'm loving this finish, if I'm honest. It has all gone a little bit pine. Which is a bit disappointing. Maybe I should have gone with the clear lacquer. Okay, my single coat of Danish oil is dried. As I said, I'm not wild about the colour change, but I can live with it. I'm going to leave it like this for now and get it back in action, because I was back at work today and it was annoying not having this. So I'll just give it a quick buff and then we'll get it assembled. There we go. And then I'm not going to do a whole lot to the bottom here. I'm just going to use a couple of these plastic feet. This is the slightly hard part, because this doesn't like, there we go, going on. Good stuff. Sorry, you can scroll downwards, scroll upwards, bottom with a jog, top with a jog, and then if I have a text document, try just some regular text, I can also change it into character mode, where it's moving the caret And in terms of how useful this is, it's annoying when it's not here. So whilst I've been rebuilding the wooden case, replacing the plastic one, I did first of all switch back to the Mark 1, but now I don't really want to give this up.
Quick addendum, I figured out whilst editing these videos that if I press the shift key and use the jog wheel, it tracks back and forward through the videos, which is an unplanned but extremely welcome feature.
So there we go. Thank you for watching.